Welcome again to Wickerson Studios. My name is Michael Wickerson, and I'm just going to show you how complex this stuff gets and how wild it can get with the GH node, and certainly jumping back into Grasshopper and playing with things like Hoopsnake. So have fun with it. Niloofar Zaker is the one that I've actually been taking a lot of these scripts from. Their basic GH introduction group, which is in Rhino 3D Education, just came out last week, I'm pretty sure. That said, what I did was I went in here and I wrote the script out. And what she did was she grabbed a point, she generated a point, and then a second point. And from that, she wanted to be able to input those 2 points as points. So you can follow through her type hints and locating point 3Ds. And then I have a line amount that I added in here, and I also added in a Z because I wanted to move these. You can see how I can play with that rectangle, not just keep it flat as a rectangle. I can move that up to the points up after they've been generated. And they've been generated because this data coming in from these points comes in as a, three XYZ numbers. And so you can grab point 0, which would be the X, Y, and Z. And then I just made that variable away from the 0 so I could actually play with that a little bit up and down. It gives her more interesting shapes, and you'll see how that plays on the perspective view, and definitely in the front and the right view. The script runs pretty simple. It creates a rectangle. I put them in the definitions rectangle underscore 010, so 010 for I in range line amount being whatever I want to run through here. I'm going to actually, it does go a little funky with the hoop snake, so I'm just going to leave it at 4 so you actually run around all 4 sides of the square. But it breaks at some point and makes for this really interesting geometry. So, you discover things as you go, and then basically you're making a list empty, and then you're appending that list with adding line between the points 1, and then you have to do I and then I plus 1, otherwise it doesn't work. So you end up coming out with these lists of points, which if I highlight here, you can see there they are. They're the 4 that go around in that square. So as I play with that, you can see that rectangle kind of is flat, and then you can lift the other 2 sides. So this kind of makes for an interesting shape, and I like it set right at the 10. The other 2 points coming out are 3 and 4. Now you've got 4 points. What I did was merge them all into this. So I've got all 4 points of my rectangle. And then I've done an orientation of those. But I did throw in a hoop snake, which is a cool little plugin that allows you to do iterations in Grasshopper. Now, of course, you're playing with iterations in Python, but since I learned it first in Hoopsnake, I may as well. Actually, I learned it first in processing with Daniel Schiffman. I'm taking those curves and I'm grouping them together, and then I'm starting the data with that. The feedback loop takes that data, runs it down here, and divides the curve. And I've divided the curve by 0. If I divide it by more than 0, you start getting into these complex, really cool systems. So right now, it'll just add there. If I did 1, if I did 2, it's choosing where it wants to actually throw those pieces. So really quickly becomes complex geometries before you start running through the Hoopsnake iterations. So I just leave it at 0. And then I merged in the source field. I want to hit it at all 4 of those points. And then I want to run it as curves. I want to do a little pipe, and that's how you end up with that. So if I run Hoopsnake, the first iteration, boom, it bakes that in. Now what's happened is I can go in here and I can play up my iteration to 1 and do another running, and boom, I exploded off into another bit of scaffolding up in this direction. And I like what it anticipates what's going to come next. And there's a top view, and there's a side and right view, which is interesting. And there's your crazy kind of structure that you might be interested in making. I'm not sure what you're going to build with this, but it is digitally modeling and sculpting around and playing with things. So let's run it as another iteration, take it up to 2, and let's just blast that. And there we go. You can see how this framework starts to become something based in GH node with a little iteration coming out of Niloofar Zaker's scripts, and then I'm just making it a little more funky and jazzy and fun as I play it up. And let's go over to count 3 and take that to another one. And there's the next bake. And now you start to see what's happening. And if you want to crash your computer, just run this. And be sure that you set it to a certain termination count. Loop counter can tell you how many loops have been on there as well. So I'll just pull that down. Bird Barnes likes me. All right, that's cool. Iteration counter, let's just throw it in there. We've already done 4 iterations. So don't get too carried away. You start pushing this, you're going to end up having trouble. So now I'm just going to try one more and see if we get lucky. Just going to pull that iteration up like this, go into those final forms, And not everything's working. I was having trouble with variable pipe. I'm even having trouble capping these. They're extending past their lines, so there is some real funky stuff happening. But talk about making some crazy world. There it is as it explodes out and decides what it wants to do. And once again, it's about data visualization. It's about as far as your mind can go into this. It's kind of a chess game in my mind. I think I took that up to the next iteration 4. We didn't run it at 4 yet. Let's see what happens. There we go. Explosion again. Predicting what's coming next, and then what do you like as your pattern. And if you finally got around to that and you're like, okay, there's the scaffolding from, Oompa Loompa Village. Let's just throw that in a little bake, and I know I can move that away from Hoop Snake. Let's group it all together. Ella's running around here after taking a bath like a ninja. All right, she went to the store. I just have to wrap up my video. I think we're pretty good with that. I'm going to leave that and probably hit a little save on this because I hadn't done it in a while. I'll close up my grasshopper. Close this out. I've got a bunch of stuff here. And we'll just open this up. And there you go. Let's do zoom extends all and see what we have. Well, we made a monstrosity. I guess what I should do in grasshopper is leave that. And that might allow us to see. Oh, I have to make sure that I've clicked on select objects and then leave it, and then you can see that what we've actually baked is this kind of monster. And even though they're open tubes, it's like, why would I ever want to configure something like that? Why do I want to explode things into this weird pattern? Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just geographically or geometrically interested in what patterns can actually happen here. So just a little screensaver for you, a little video, calm you down, put you to sleep at night, whatever you want to do. Doesn't matter to me. I just find the power of this incredible for creating geometries. It's not something I've ever done physically. I might have obsessed about a few things in my life, but not anywhere close to what computational art starts to open the mind up towards. So please enjoy it. I hope people are creative within the GH Python Facebook private group. I know we've gathered quite a few hundreds of developers in 3 months. Let's see what people can make. I know my ideas are pretty simple at the start, but they are a sense of discovery. Thanks.